And this is going to be a discussion with some, rather, of the most in-demand executives in sports. We're going to get an inside perspective on lessons that they learned during this time of unprecedented growth in women's sports. So please welcome to the stage our moderator, Kristin Bernert, Managing Director of SWISH Partners. And our speakers. I mean, I know this person should get a nice round of applause. Keia Clarke, CEO of the New York Liberty. There it is.
Yeah.
I think that one rivaled Fee. I'm just saying. Christina Francis, President of Magic Johnson Enterprises. Liliahn Majeed, the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer of North America at L'Oreal Group. Welcome.
Good afternoon. How's everybody feeling? Oh, what's that?
Right?
What's that, Keia?
Look at that.
Look at that. What do you have there? Okay, we have heard from a lot of different executives today about what's happening in women's sports. A lot of different ideas, a lot of different theories. But I want to start with the basics, which is relationships. The relationships on this panel go deep, right? They really do. And some of my favorite relationships ever in my career. Christina, I'm just getting to know, but know your sister, Kathy, well. The East Coast Francis, we love her here. And
She's East Coast, I'm West.
you're West. Some say, West is best, but you don't know. No. So Christina, I really want to build on our foundation that we're building here and get to know you better, like I know your sister. I'm looking forward to that. And then Lil. So Lil and I worked together at the NBA starting back in 2005, I think, Lil?
That's when I started.
So long time. And then, Lil worked in team marketing and business operations at the NBA, which is like an internal consulting group. And the thing that I always really admired about Lil, many things that I admired about Lil, is she made a massive career pivot. And so many people think about doing that, but Lil did it. And she did it in the company that she was working for at the NBA. She proved herself there and is now Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at L'Oreal. Just a total baller.
Great publicist.
Total baller.
Thank you, KB.
And then Keia. Okay, so Keia and I, back in 2006, I got a call from an old assistant coach that I had. I played basketball, and she said, "Hey, there's this player from Canisius. Her name's Keia. I coached her. You'll love her. She did her thesis on the WNBA. At the time, I was working with Lil at the league, and I was focused on the WNBA. And times back then, man, they were different. It was, it was not an easy job. And, it was like we weren't ready for the WNBA as a society, as I like to say. So Keia did her master's thesis. Was your master's thesis?
It was master's.
So
NYU.
Michelle,
That's how I got to New York.
Yeah. So Michelle wanted me to read this master's thesis and talk to Keia. So I read it, and I was like, wow, that's harsh. So Keia, she wrote everything that was wrong with the WNBA. Everything. It was like painstaking for me to read. I'm like, I'm taking it personally. I'm like, man, this. So it's like, and then what she's going to do to fix it. And so I said, man, I'm going to invite this little punk to come, watch a game with me. And so we go over to the Garden, and Keia brings her mom, which I still love that. I love her mom too. And lo and behold, we ended up hiring her at the NBA and worked together there, and then came back and worked together again at Madison Square Garden, where she worked on the Liberty. And it was very clear to me, and as leaders, you have to recognize this, that I needed to get out of her way. Keia was on a path, and she's here. And so, 18 years later, Keia, you finally fixed it.
Ooh.
Yeah. So congrats. So I'm going to have a couple of hard-hitting questions for Keia. I have 3 hard-hitting questions. The last one's easier. How much have you slept? in the past few days?
I got a good 10 hours over the last 3 days.
Okay.
It's everything I ever wanted, obviously. And for context, I've been with the Liberty for 14 seasons, and to finally get a championship is just a dream come true. Even though I bashed the W back then, my entire career tethered to it. I can't get enough, and I love what I do. But this week has just been a whirlwind.
I'm sure it has.
In a good way.
I'm sure it has. Parade's tomorrow.
Parade tomorrow, 10 a.m., the Canyon
Okay.
of Heroes.
Where should everybody line up? Where should they go?
In Battery Park, starts at Battery Park.
Okay.
Canyon of Heroes, it's where all of the
It's
major
unbelievable.
league parades happen. So that's where we're going to do it.
Unbelievable. Can't believe this is happening. My next question, was it a foul? I'm kidding, Keia. I won't make you answer it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I do that to Keia. Just because. But just like reflecting, Keia, like, this is a long time coming. You've seen a lot over the course of your career. You've had ownership changes, you've had venue changes, the same team. The business has changed rapidly. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how in these different phases you approached organizational development, leadership, and then kind of what you see? I mean, things are changing so fast, what you see in front of you.
Yeah, I'll start by saying it's an ongoing process. Even with the success and the growth that we've seen right now, me looking inward and figuring out ways to continue to develop my own leadership skills, to develop others, is always at the forefront. I think with all of the change that especially the Liberty had as a team that was somewhat nomadic, moving around the city, as a team that didn't always invest in talent, as a team that always didn't really value what the brand stood for, I never let that be what defined what we were doing. The North Star was always the athletes. They do something world class, they do something that most people can't do, and they deserve a platform. That was always the North Star. Even when we found ourselves in low times, I was always focused on what can we do so we're ready for that moment when it's gonna happen. And I like to say, much of the brand identity, the vibe, the energy, the thing that people are talking about, the sea foam. By the way, KB brought the sea foam into the brand in a major way. I have to credit her.
Fear the foam, fear the foam.
Fear the foam, fear the foam, new court, new jersey, everything. But, all of those things happened the year really when we won 2 games, when we were playing in Westchester County Center. So I think that part of development that I saw in myself and what I really try to almost recreate for others at this point is really always understanding the meaning why. Like, why are we doing things and what is the actual purpose? Why does the New York Liberty need to exist? Why could we not let that team fail? We needed that in the WNBA. We needed it for women's sports. We needed it for society. And they finally caught up. And it's just, it's happening and it's not going anywhere. So that's the thing I'm most excited about, is how we take that to another level and move up another rung.
Yeah.
Very much so. We'll get to Ellie later. Got that I wanted to ask about Ellie and how that. We had a conversation when Maddie went away. I was not happy about it, but you nailed it. Lil,
Yes.
you have such a unique position that you're sitting in right now, in that you've had a really close view of a league office, of teams. You know the sports business through and through. You go to a brand, right, like L'Oreal, this massive global brand. From that chair, there's a lot of leaders and sellers in the audience. How do you think about what corporate partnership should look like? What should it look like? What do you see that's good that's happening right now in sports corporate partnership, and then women's sports in particular, and then maybe what's not working as well that you would change?
Hey, y'all. Thanks for that. So 2 things I'll say before I answer that question is number one, L'Oreal has had a head of DE&I in North America for the last 20 years, and it's always reported to the CEO. So we didn't just get religion around this. The other thing we didn't just get religion around is women's sports. So we were a sponsor of the WNBA in the 90s, y'all. We sponsored the WNBA in the 90s. We are so proud also to, in this decade, to be sponsors of, our Knicks brand is a sponsor of the New York Liberty. The LA Sparks, they sponsor, the Urban Decay sponsors the LA Sparks. Coco Gauff is one of our spokespeople for our Carol's Daughter brand. I could go on and on and on and on and on. And so I'll answer your question with kind of 3 quick stories of how some of those partnerships came to be. And I'll close with our partnership with the WNBPA. So number 1, Knicks. So that partnership came through Octagon. Separately from that, though, we were doing our own research to really understand of all of the sports that we could connect with, which were the ones that popped with our consumers. And through that research, we found that it was both soccer and basketball. So check, we knew that we definitely wanted to do a partnership with one of the WNBA teams. And then we started to say, which of the teams really, because Knicks is based in LA, so it was a very strategic decision to partner with the Liberty. And so we started to say, which one of those teams best aligns with our values? And when we saw the boldness with which the Liberty showed up, when we saw just how committed they were to leaving their community that they were in better than they found it, and when we saw just the real pure fandom of Liberty fans, like it became no question something that we thought was a partnership that made sense for us. And we did it a couple of years ago, and it kind of paid off well. So I'm so glad that we trusted you and your vision. The second story is about Urban Decay. That was a completely different one. They are based in LA, and they spent some time. The LA Sparks reached out to them, and they said, let's sit down and let's talk about it. They had a history of partnering with surfing and skateboarding, and so they were like, let's try to understand what would work for us from a basketball perspective. And when they started a completely different personality there, the LA Sparks said that they were committed to freedom of expression and helping people celebrate their identity and taking the time within their communities to ensure that we celebrate important cultural moments, because we want all of our consumers, I would say this across the board, absolutely Urban Decay, but all of L'Oreal fans, we want all of our consumers to see themselves in our products and in our campaign. And so when we thought about a partner, the LA Sparks, that connected with those values that we had, that one made sense. And then the last one I'll talk about is the partnership that we just had at WNBA All-Star with the WNBPA. And I called up my girl Terry, and I said, Terry, we have been known, I've been trained very well from both Kristin and Keia about the fact that yes, maybe we don't have all the eyeballs that we want on WNBA games, but those fans, when they see that a brand is investing in the WNBA, they buy from us. We're the #1 beauty company in the world. We want to stay the #1 beauty company in the world. And so we said, if we want to do that, let's make sure that we connect with brands that will help us get there. And so
hold on. Any journalists in the room, just make sure you got that quote.
And so Terry and I, we had a quick little lunch one day, a few months or so before All-Star, maybe like a month and a half, literally. And I said, what could you benefit for? What could be of help to you? Because we're not necessarily all about just splashing our logo on something. Like, we want to make sure that when we make investments that it is a two-way relationship and you are getting just as much from this. And she said, our players are so much more than what they do on the court. They are women too, and they love beauty. They love makeup. They love their lipstick. They love all of those things, but yet we're still trying to figure out why more beauty brands haven't invested in us. And I said, bet. We're going to do that. Fast forward maybe 6 or so, 8 weeks later, we had a glam lounge set up in the Players Lounge at WNBA All-Star, and it was such an emotional moment to see those players celebrated in the way that they deserved all the time, and they were not used to it. They were not accustomed to it, and that needs to end right now for more brands. And so alignment with values, so I'll give a quick hit of what I said, just an alignment with values, a commitment to the community, and being able to demonstrate that fans will actually purchase from us are the 3 things that mattered to us when we were making that decision.
Makes a ton of sense. And L'Oreal, we expect you to be even more active in the women's sports space. Lil, we're going to hold you to it.
No pressure.
You're watching.
No
pressure.
Okay.
No pressure.
All right. Everybody's going to run up to me afterwards.
Yep. You'll be getting a lot of emails. Christina, very public investment that was currently made by Magic Johnson Enterprises with the Washington Spirit. Would love to hear more about that. What really drove that decision? What drove the interest? And again, you're investing in women's sports. What do you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of when it comes to investment?
Well, we just invested in the Washington Spirit, and honestly, I got a phone call out of the blue and said Michelle Kang is looking, to have a conversation about investment. And so I did a little research because I honestly didn't know that much about her. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, this lady is like incredible. So I talked to her, and then she flew into Los Angeles and she met with Irvin and I. And when she walked out of the office, there was no way you couldn't give her money. Like, this lady is a powerhouse.
She is.
And her passion for women and athletes is incredible. I mean, she's building the innovation hub that really looks at the performance of women and how to enhance their lives, right, for a female athlete. So she said there's like 6%, I think, of all research for women's performance, and they don't even activate it. They just kind of have it and like just kind of goes to the wayside. So everything that she's doing is to study from a menstrual cycle to, what vitamins, what things help from a female perspective. And so we are looking at her going, she really cares. And she cares about the athletes, she cares about her players, she cares about winning, which is like major to us. Like, Irvin does not do anything unless he thinks he's gonna win. So with that, I mean, that was really it. I mean, we of course, you look at the numbers, you see where, soccer has been going for a while, and women's sports in general, and then you go, like, you have to be with the right ownership team. That's huge to us, is that when we make a decision, we're looking at who's behind it, what kind of management team in the office, what are they doing, and then we go from there. And so that was really, it was kind of an easy decision, though, with her. And with, that team, we're number 2, and we're going to the playoffs, and knock on some wood, we'll have home field advantage.
Wow. Bold statement.
Yeah.
Feel a championship.
I'm feeling good.
Feeling good. We got to win.
We got the World Series.
You got the
LAFC,
lucky trophy sitting next to you.
Here,
Let it rub off.
You talk about management teams, and I think that you hit the nail on the head. Like, having the right management team in place is critical when you make an investment and making sure there's trust there. Keia, as you've kind of built your management team, can you talk a little bit about that evolution and what you've looked for, and maybe even how you think it may evolve moving forward, given the high level of interest?
Yeah, I think, there will never be a day where I won't say investment should be in talent. And I think early in my career, something that you even saw in me was that I was talented. I think a lot of people, my peers, people I'd meet in sports, it was like, well, we're just trying to get our foot in the door so we could figure out how to get over to the NBA or one of the big 4. And I was a person who came in and said, well, I actually really want to work in the WNBA and I want to learn everything. And that's actually what I'm looking for. Not that you need to stay for 18 or 19 years like I have, but more so, I want to contribute to the solutions here. I can add value no matter what level I am. I'm looking for people who want to be themselves at work. Really quick anecdote, I remember I don't wear a lot of makeup. I wasn't a super girly girl. I was a complete athlete, 3 sports. And on media day, you said, you need to find the makeup artist for the team. And it was a skill set I didn't have. I think I called Swin Cash, or, it's like literally, like, it was like,
when in doubt, call Swin.
I got to figure this out. But the interesting thing was, at that time, KB said to me, you need to think about the women of color on our team and make sure they're comfortable. We want them to be comfortable in their own skin when we put them, and we're going to amplify them. They're going to be photographed very closely. And it was such a huge, like a small thing, but a huge impact. And like, I want to see people at work in that way where they feel like, not just what I learned in college or what I'm reading in, trade journals or what I'm hearing the talking heads talk about. What is it about me innately that I bring to the table that can make this a high-performing organization. That's really what, you know, I see has evolved for me, and it was more how I was treated, how I was really cultivated and nurtured over time, and given opportunities to take risks, and sitting in rooms with all of the governors or all of the team presidents, and being at, you know, what was deemed a junior level, but just taking it all in. What can I learn? What can I bring to the table? So I'm looking for someone who's hungry enough to just listen and be patient and not walk in like many of this next generation do, like, well, when am I gonna be a VP? It's like, you just got here yesterday, like, you know, you gotta learn a little bit, but, you know, it's more the intuition, the inquisitiveness, that's what I'm looking for, and that's what's really evolved, but more so, I want people to be comfortable in their skin and who they are when they're at work.
So important, and Lil, you see that every day in the work that you do. You drive that ethos, I'm sure, through at L'Oreal as well.
Oh, 100% in terms of how we decide on talent. I also have to shout out the U.S. Women's National Team and One Team. We did a partnership with them, and the story that I loved was that I saw one of the athletes, and she was like, "I am now considering your brand because you spent time with us." So, how we make talent decisions as a whole. Sure, there are lots of scientific ways that we do it as well, but it really is about potential and how convincingly you sell yourself. Because if you don't believe that you're fabulous, how in the heck am I going to believe that you are fabulous and think that you can find a place or space with us? And so the difference maker often in interviews is like storytelling. If you're preparing for an interview and you're trying to really nail it, the ability that you have to be able to tell a story about yourself in 45 seconds, that whole tell me about yourself question, like if you can really tell me a compelling story that connects to the research that you've done on us and our brand and what we're looking for, that is something as a whole that we are really working for. And the second thing I'll say that I really, really focus on once people are in the door to ensure that they feel supported and protected. I just had a whole long conversation. If you have not read, I see a lot of women in the room. If you have not read this article on HBR called Stop Telling Women They Have the Imposter Syndrome. You've read it? You see, yes, y'all, it will make you, it is fuel that you need for your soul on these really, really hard days. And one of the things it just talks about, and this is the question that I ask in talent conversations all the time when we're talking about people and their opportunities is, have you considered the environment that they are in? And is it really that individual that needs to be fixed? I like to use crude language. Is it really that person, or is it in the environment that we need to fix? And so at L'Oreal, we really focus on not fixing people, but fixing the environments that we're in.
I've missed you, Lil. Flat out, full stop. So we've talked a lot about, we know that everyone watches women's sports now, for sure, right? We know that women's sports is not just good business, but smart business. For each of you sitting in your chair, you have a pot of money, thinking about how you can deploy that to continue the momentum forward. How would you spend it? We'll start with Christina.
How big is the pot?
How much you want?
I might need at least about 20 billion.
Let's go.
No, because I think about, and when Irvin was playing and they had time delay, right, tape delay. And so you see where women's sports is going, and they need the same practice facilities. They need their own stadiums. They don't need to schedule around. They need their own, chartered planes, right? Because all of that affects the performance. So being able to invest in giving them the equal of what you give male athletes, I think is just really important.
I think the product is strong.
And I know that's the pot of money that you have to figure out. The media deals are getting bigger, things are happening, but it's just slow, and that's where if you give me a pot of money, I say, let's go for it. Let's get equal ground.
Love it. Keia, how much do you want first?
How much do I want?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll take a couple $100 million.
Okay, what are you doing with it? What are you doing with it, Keia?
Go big!
I'm gonna go, might be just way too simplistic, but retail and merchandising, it's the number one thing that I always hear. It's the only complaint, and we're seeing it right now. There's not enough gear for women to get Our teams, our leagues, the seafoam colorway we thought was going to be a fad. We are custom printing it, but if you will put a logo on your back, a color on your back, a team name on your back, that lasts forever. That's me. It's my 12-year-old. It's my 10-year-old. It could be my great aunt. But I mean, I have aunties in Connecticut asking me for Liberty t-shirts all the time. And it's like, if that's not what drives, everybody's not going to buy a ticket. Everybody can't come to a game. People can watch, but you can wear and you can have it. And I think we're just doing a disservice right now in that area. And it's just something, even right now, we're not spending enough time on, I think, as in our league anyways, and something that we're trying to fix on the local side. But
Love it. Lil?
I felt that because I wanted to wear some Liberty gear today. I saved the one thing I loved for tomorrow, for the parade. But like I ran down to all the way from the Upper East Side to Brooklyn to try to go and get something that I felt. But my girl, Shirley Short, hooked me up with this curated t-shirt. Okay, so, I'm going for the B too, billions of dollars. I think it's a trick question, KB, because of course I'm gonna spend on women's sports because isn't that what we're here to talk about? And so there are two things that we kind of think through in terms of the lens of how we spend, is how we're thinking about it. It's just the consumer and being where the consumer is having fun and they feel like they can be their authentic self. And that is something that I totally see when I go to WNBA games, like the freedom that you have to be you as you are and not be concerned about anybody judging you. I feel that when I go to sports games as well. So like where the consumers are having fun as a whole. And then the second thing that we look for like is really authentic storytelling. I work in DEI. I hate the word for performative. So the places that I can spend money where you can help me tell really authentic stories that people remember because they remember stories before they remember data and they listen to athletes before they listen to anyone else. Those are the two things. Having consumers show up in places they feel celebrated and be wearing L'Oreal products and then using you all for transference and to tell powerful stories together.
All right, thank you so much. What a wonderful panel. Really looking forward to seeing what's next out of this crew. And thanks to everybody for listening.